what is up, ladies and gents? So I wanted to do a video today talking a bit about the videos that I did today. So the reason I did the two videos that I did today was I thought it was about time that somebody called Chris him out for the way that he speaks to people a lot of the time. You know, he talks about how other people always need to be brought down a peg or two. But I felt it was about time that he was brought down a peg or two, you know, and at the end of the day, it's not okay for him to speak to people the way that he does, you know, and we've all seen how he speaks to people, horny people, you know, clowns, rat pussies, you know, dumbasses, etc., you know. I'm not, as I've said in my previous videos, I'm not saying that they don't have a right, that he doesn't have a right to respond to negative comments. But what I'm saying is, there's a more appropriate way to respond to negative comments that doesn't involve calling somebody a clown or a pussy or a dumbass or something like that. You know, the fact that he thinks it's okay to speak to people like that is just absolutely disgusting and appalling, and it's just vile at the end of the day, and he can't keep expecting not to get called out for that. He can't keep expecting not to get called out for the way that he's speaking to people. You know, it is about time that people, you know, gave him a mouthful for the way that he speaks to people. It's about time that people gave him people had a go at him for the way that he speaks to people and says that the way that he speaks to people is wrong. You know, that was the main purpose of me doing those videos today, was that I really felt it was about time that someone spoke about the way that Chris speaks to people, and I really felt that it was about time that he was called out for that, because he deserves to be called out for that, you know, 100%. You know, I don't care if people think that I'm being too harsh for saying that Chris shouldn't be speaking to people the way he does. I don't get what's harsh about, you know, about me saying that Chris shouldn't be responding to people calling them clowns, dumbasses, rat pussies and things like that. I mean, yeah, of course the iFan will, as I've said before, the iFan will defend him and say that he's not doing anything wrong, and say that he has every right to speak to people like that. But what gives him the right? This is what I'm trying to say. Is like, what gives him the right to speak to people like that? He has no right to say things like that to people. You know, it's not okay to say things like that. He has no right to say things like that. You know, and you know, not expect to get called out for that. You know, one day he will say that to someone and they will fight back. You know, they won't hold back. They will give him a smack in the mouth for, you know, for saying that. You know, as I was saying before, would he say that, you know, and I was thinking about this, I was like, he calls people out these things online, but would he actually say that to somebody in the street? If somebody did something to him, did something he didn't like, would he call them a pussy? Would he call them, would he call them a clown? You know, he's happy to say things like that to people online, but would he say that to people? Would he actually say that, you know, off the internet? Would he actually say that to people in the street? But he, you know, because it's not right, you know. But of course people will say, oh, you know, it's absolutely right, you know, he's doing nothing wrong by speaking to people like that, and it's not okay, and it's okay for him to speak to people like that. But it's not okay for him to speak to people like that. You know, it's disgusting, and it's wrong. You know, and it's just, you know, there's nothing good to say about the way that Chris speaks to people. You know, horny people, clowns and things like that is just completely and utterly acceptable. You know, he thinks he's some kind of big man, you know, wannabe, you know, big, hard, tough man speaking to people like that. You know, he acts like some wannabe gangster. He ain't no wannabe gangster at all, he's a wannabe prick. That's what he is. He's now but a hotty little muppet and a big-headed little muppet that needs to be brought down a peg or two. You know, it's about time he faced consequences for the way that he speaks to people. It's about time that he was punished for that, and that he faced repercussions for that. It's about time that it's about time someone called him out for the way that he speaks to people, because it's not anything to speak to people the way he does. As I said, yeah, I'm not disputing that. I'm not disputing that all the people, responded to hate comments. I'm not saying they don't have a right to respond to negative comments. All I'm saying is that there's absolutely no need whatsoever for him to fucking be responding to comments like that and saying things like that to people. I can't be the only one who thinks it's absolutely disgraceful the way that he speaks to people. I can't be the only one who thinks it's about time that Chris was called out for that. I can't be the only one who thinks it's absolutely appalling that Chris speaks to people the way he does and doesn't expect to get called out for that. How wrong would he be? But it shows the sort of person that Chris is when, the fact that he responds to comments like that. This is why I've not really been calling Sarah, I'm not really calling Sarah out, but she doesn't, Sarah responds to negative comments, but she doesn't really call people clowns and things like that. It's only really Chris that does that. It's only really Chris that responds to comments in that way, which is why I'm already calling him out. Why I'm not kind of calling Sarah out for this as well, because she doesn't really do it. It's only really Chris that does it. So how can I call them both out for it when it's something only Chris does? It wouldn't make sense for me to be calling them both out when it's only Chris that's when it's only Chris who is calling people clowns and things like that. That's why I'm calling him out for this. Because he deserves to be called out for it, and I'm not gonna apologise for saying I think it's wrong the way that he speaks to people, and I think that he should get a smack in the mouth for that. Because he should get a smack in the mouth for that. Maybe he wouldn't be so hot if someone gave him a smack in the mouth for his troubles. And he's asked him for that. The way that he's responded, the way that he speaks to people, he's asked him for a smack in the mouth. He's asking for someone to give him a good talking to. They want people to respect them. Why should people respect them when they're constantly speaking to people like crap and speaking to people in such a vile, disgusting way? It's not gonna happen. People will only start respecting him when he stops calling people, clowns and pussies and dumbasses. If he was to respond to negative comments in a more appropriate way, people would probably have a bit more respect. But why would people have any respect for somebody who thinks it's okay to respond to negative comments the way Chris does? It's just disgusting. And I'm not I'm not gonna apologise for saying that. Because someone has to say it. Someone has to make that point that it's so badly wrong. I can't be, as I said, I know I'm not the only one who thinks it's wrong. And it's about time that Chris was taught a valuable lesson. It's about time he learned to keep his mouth shut. Instead of calling people to things he does. One day he'll end up saying that to the wrong person, and he'll land himself in big trouble, as they will smack him one in the mouth. They won't hold back on that. He'll call somebody a clown or a pussy or a dumbass, and they'll just end up smacking him in the mouth. They ain't gonna hold back. They ain't gonna like being called something like that. He thinks it's okay to speak to people like that online. Would he call someone like that, as I said in the video at the start? Would he say something like that to someone in the street if they did something he didn't like? just because somebody posts a negative comment does not automatically mean that that person deserves to be called a dumbass or a clown or anything like that. No person ever deserves to be called, to be called something like that, regardless of what they say. I feel bad for the people that get all things like that, like this. This is just disgusting. And this is what really pisses me off, Chris more in particular, is the fact that he speaks to people like that. It's inappropriate, it's disgusting, it's vile, it's horrible, it's rude, it's uncalled for, it's unnecessary. Sometimes it's even over the top. I would say he even goes over the top. It's just, there's not, the way that, as I said, this is what it is, like, the way that he responds to negative comments is unnecessary and uncalled for. He can respond to negative comments, but he needs to respond to them in a more appropriate way. Because responding to a negative comment on somebody a dumbass or a clown or a pussy or something like that just isn't appropriate. It just isn't. It's just completely and utterly unacceptable for a social media influencer to be responding to people like that, and for a social media influencer to be saying things like that to people. It's disgusting, and it's wrong. And I'm not going to apologise for saying that. This just had to be said. This will probably be the last video I do on the matter, because I've said enough about it, and I won't keep posting videos just for the sake of it, just for the sake of horning Chris out over this. But I wanted to make it clear why I did those videos today, because I wanted to, if someone had to horn Chris out for the way that he speaks to people, because he can't keep speaking to people like that and not get called out for it. That can't keep happening. You can't keep saying things like that to people and not expect to get called out for it. Because not everyone's gonna applaud him for the fact that he speaks like that to people. Some people will call him out for it and say that it's wrong, as it is. And I'm one of those people who thinks it's absolutely disgusting the way that he speaks to people, and I'm not gonna apologise for saying it. It has to be said. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you for another one soon. Adios.